My name is Ben Scoggins. I'm the managing director of an agency called Organic. We're a digital agency based primarily in Exeter, but we also have an office down the road in Holborn. As an agency, I'm just going to do a little bit of blurb about us, but I promise it won't be very long. We are all about understanding technology and understanding people. That's our thing. So the sweet spot, the sort of intersection of those two things is what we're all about. So we coined this term, human-centered thinking, tech-centered doing. But basically the offer to brands and to clients is all about helping our clients to use digital technology to fundamentally better connect with their audiences. So that's what we're about as an organisation. And we do that for brands like Argos, and we're going to hear from Argos a little bit later, but also in the past brands like Nectar, Direct Line, The Body Shop, various other people. So our business basically divides into three interrelated chunks, and they are sort of interrelated bits of our business really. We have very few clients that just exist in one of these pieces of pie. Most of them tend to straddle a couple of pieces of pie. Just to sort of go through them, we call them practices, and fundamentally there are skill sets within them. The first one, tools and platforms, is basically everything from the integration of third-party marketing technologies, so actually making sure that they work for our clients. By and large, they don't always work for our clients. A lot of legacy systems that we deal with, a lot of integration of sort of back-end tech, everything from Salesforce to Episerver to HubSpot, whatever else. But also the development of our own tools. So we design and develop our own tech fundamentally. The brand and user experience part, so that's underpinned really by digital marketing strategies. Everything that we do sort of comes off that, but it includes campaign and content creation, and then everything from sort of journey mapping, pure user experience through to user interface design, and then I suppose the pointy end around sort of CRO, so that falls into that bit as well. And then the final part, which I suppose is most pertinent to today, is our visibility and performance practice. So in that there is the performance element, the paid media management, analytics and reporting, but also a significant amount of SEO, and obviously the search part is a large bit of what we're going to be talking about when I introduce the guests in a minute. So it's usually at this point that I will drift off into an hour or two monologue about why Organic is such an amazing agency, chest beating as all agencies do, so I'm going to spare you that. That is all of the chest beating I'm going to do right now. If you want some more chest beating, I'll be available at the bar later and I will tell you all about the agency. But what we're going to talk about is hopefully what you've all actually come along to hear today, which is occupying the minds of most of the retailers that we speak to, which is how to sort of thrive in the new world order, where fundamentally it's a search world that's dominated by a small number of super sites and marketplaces. How do you actually make that work? We're going to look at a number of retailers, but the sort of hint is on this slide really. There is one king to rule them all at the moment in the world, and because of their scale, Amazon are a fairly sort of obvious target. Their dominance is pretty well documented, their scale and acceleration, their speed of growth is obviously well documented too. But I wanted to just give a few stats for a bit of context for what some of our speakers are sort of going to go on to talk about a little bit later. So the first stat is, and these may or may not be surprising to you, certainly some of these were surprising to me, but 9 out of 10 of all shoppers in the UK last year bought something through Amazon. And of those, 27% are sort of fully card-carrying members of the Amazon Club, so they are Prime subscribers, which is a huge chunk of their audience that are regularly paying for something on a monthly basis. They are 9th largest in terms of retail sales, so 9th largest may not sound like the place you want to be, but you've got to realise that these guys are sitting in and amongst a top 10, which is fundamentally supermarkets. You know, so all of your big four, obviously, right at the top of this, your Tesco's, Sainsbury's, Asda, etc. But there are only a couple of places in that top 10 that are actually held by people that are not supermarkets. Perhaps most pertinent to today, when we start thinking about search, Amazon are by far and away the largest online retailer in the UK. So they've just last year topped 30%. So 30.2% of sales last year went through Amazon as a platform. Of course, they've not had it all their own way, and the bigger you get, the harder you potentially fall. So no company really wants an addition of BBC's Panorama devoted to them, but sure enough, that's what's happened to them in the last couple of weeks. They found themselves targets, rightly or wrongly, on a number of different angles, and obviously tax avoidance is something that a lot of the sort of Silicon Valley set have to deal with. Question marks over that, whether that's whether they're doing the right thing or not. But there are other things in Amazon's case which are particularly sort of pertinent to them. So not least, employee working conditions has been a sort of big thing in the press over the last 12 months. The treatment of Amazon sellers, so their own sellers, is a big one. And then, of course, the massive one, from our point of view, certainly at Organic, is about data. It's about what data do they harvest, how do they harvest it, how transparent are they in the way that they harvest it, and how are they going to potentially use it in the future. So lots of things going on there. Having said that, they've undoubtedly done a brilliant job at serving customers in the market. So most noticeably, I think there's a revolution in the ease of buying things online that was ushered in by them. And of course, the sort of service reliability that they became known for. And because of that, they quite rightly became the sort of synonymous with being number one in terms of customer satisfaction in the UK for 6 years in a row. That crown has slipped slightly last year. So First Direct have reclaimed their space at the top. But fundamentally, even at sort of fifth space, having been knocked, there are still a huge amount of people who actually really enjoy the Amazon experience. 70% of people saying actually I have no problem with it. The black clouds that hang over them, that doesn't really affect me and I'm more than happy to buy from them. Nearly a quarter of people saying they actually really love that shopping experience. Of course, for brands, there's a bit more of an issue. And when you get to a certain size, a certain sort of critical mass, you do have the option to go it alone and to speak to your own audiences and to cultivate those audiences. Nike in the US, sort of famously at the end of last year, said actually we're not going to sell direct through them anymore in the States. And there are advantages to that, most noticeably owning your own data, having control over your own audience data again, but also cutting out the middleman in terms of profit. There's obviously a chunk that goes to Amazon that you don't need to pay anymore. For most, though, this isn't really necessarily a reality. And I think for most e-commerce and retail organisations in the UK, Amazon, and to a sort of lesser extent, I suppose, other marketplaces and super sites, continue to win the hearts and minds of audiences across the land. So what can retailers do? Luckily, I don't have to answer that question. I'm going to let three other people answer that question. We've got three speakers here today who are going to explore three different approaches to tackling the problem. So first up, Joe Ford, who's the head of natural search at Organic. He's going to talk for sort of 10 or 15 minutes on a topic we've called David versus Goliath, which is fundamentally the fire versus fire route. So he's going to look at Argos in particular, one of our clients, and look at how Argos look to outperform Amazon and other marketplace sites where it really matters. And he'll explain a little bit more about that, but just as a spoiler, it's around better understanding your consumers. It all has to start with that, which luckily is around our agency positioning as well, so thank God for that. Second up, we've got Callum Campbell, who's the CEO of Limworks, who's going to talk about something we've called If You Can't Beat Them. So if you can't beat them, join them. So this idea really of how to get the most out of working with super sites and marketplaces, and sort of tactics to maximise your own impact when using those sites as a channel. And then finally, we're going to look at the power of brands. So Rebecca Steele from John Lewis is going to talk about sort of, I suppose, the question really of does brand power remain supreme in this market? And she's going to talk about strategies for owning your own space, looking at maximising your own unique brand values. And she'll also touch on Google as, is that part of the playing field or is that one of the competitors? Following the presentations, we're going to then form a supergroup from our speakers. We're going to invite them all onto the stage, and we're also going to add in a couple more faces to that supergroup as well. So James Moffat, who's the executive chairman of Organic, is going to be putting some of your questions mainly. So thank you for those who've sent in questions to the panel. and also Dan Patmore, who's the Senior Natural Search Manager from Argos. We're going to virtually invite him onto the stage because Sainsbury's Argos have got a travel ban that came into effect quite frustratingly at about 7 o'clock last night. So he's going to be here, and we're going to, with the powers of modern technology, beam him onto the stage. So he'll be part of that too, to give his views on the topics you've identified. Two final notes from me. First one is, for God's sakes, don't shake hands with anybody today. And the second one is, after the panel, there will be time to chat. I appreciate that people will need to rush off and start your days. If you do have time to chat, then there are some fantastic brands in the room today, not only the people on the stage, but also the rest of you out there. So please do take advantage of that. I think there's a lot of learning for all. So if you can stick around for more caffeine and wildly unhealthy pastries, then please do.